Good morning. Thank you all for being here today, and I'm honored that Congressman Guest and Governor Hosemann are here with us this morning as well. Just as we did yesterday, we had a 9 a.m. briefing. We will have another one at 4 p.m. This afternoon. But we do have some updates, which I think will be helpful to the public at large. In the last 24 hours, there have been new developments as floodwater have continued to rise at the Pearl River as well as throughout central Mississippi. Since declaring the state of emergency yesterday, MEMA, MDOT, our state and local law enforcement, and other state agencies have been working day and night to prepare our state resources to aid in our storm response efforts. While we did get 2 beautiful days of sunshine, do not let that lull you into a false sense of hope. The flooding has not receded, and we are seeing rain today, and we expect to see rain later in the week as well. With the latest river projections, we expect the Pearl River to crest sometime tomorrow mid-morning in northeast Jackson, above Lakeland, and later in the day in downtown Jackson. At this point, we do not anticipate any developments in the next week that will change the crest projections over and above the current level of 38 feet. As we continue to monitor radar and weather reports, we do not anticipate this situation to end anytime soon. It will be days before we are out of the woods and the waters start to recede, and the state and our first responders are prepared and ready to act. So far, the actions that we have already taken, the reservoir began releasing water last night to relieve the water levels, which will bring another 12 to 18 inches of water into the river. Earlier this morning, and this is good news, the inflow and the outflow equalized, allowing for some relief on the reservoir pool. State law enforcement has gone door to door to alert residents to evacuate if there is a high likelihood that water will be entering their area. The State Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks did 159 door-to-door knocks yesterday and were able to alert 510 in person of the flood coming and inform them to please evacuate. All possibly affected Mississippians we have tried to reach out to and have been notified. If you have not evacuated yet, we urge you to do so. If you are in or near the impacted area, even if you have not yet received notification, I urge you to check MEMA's website to view the flood inundation maps and the tools to make sure you know whether or not you need to evacuate. During the day yesterday, the Office of Homeland Security performed 4 assisted evacuations. Fortunately, there were no evacuations needed overnight. Throughout this process, over 146,000 sandbags have been distributed throughout the impacted area. The citywide boil water notice will be in effect at least until midweek, with the possibility of it being extended further. Please prepare for that. The Mississippi Department of Transportation, and I believe Mr. Huff is behind me, has began lane and ramp closures last night in preparation of the rising water, and is currently monitoring Interstate 55, Interstate 20, as well as Highway 80. They have already started certain lane closures, and they have are continuing to monitor the situation. The outside lanes on Interstate 55 have been closed in both directions, northbound and southbound, around the Daniel Lake exit. I would encourage you, if you're traveling south from Jackson onto Interstate 55 or north into Jackson on Interstate 55 or anywhere else, quite frankly, please go to MDOT's website or the MDOT traffic app to check the full list of lane closures as well as highway closures. Also, we are working closely with the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the Mississippi Department of Transportation as they implement the necessary closures to ensure the safety of all Mississippians. The barricades do currently remain in place along the I-55 frontage roads. Please do not go around barricades that have been set up. They are there for a reason, and they are there to prevent unnecessary accidents or unnecessary or tragic loss of life. We do have some positive news to share this morning. Here in our state, when a fellow Mississippian is in need, we stand up and we lend a helping hand. I want to thank emergency personnel, certainly in the affected areas, but also the emergency personnel from our neighbors in neighboring regions, specifically Copiah and Yazoo and Smith County EMAs and the Florence Fire Department, who have loaned high water rescue vehicles to assist the flooded communities. Again, as I said yesterday, this is a precarious situation that could turn at any moment. The reality is that we are getting updates on water levels literally hourly. We will continue to do so. We expect for those in the river area in Jackson and below that the water will continue to rise throughout today and continue to rise throughout Sunday evening. We do not want to lose anyone as we respond to what is expected to continue to be historic flood levels. Know that if you do not heed our evacuation advice, you're putting your life in danger. If there is a situation in which we need to send search and rescue, we will send them. But we want to minimize and mitigate the opportunities for that, because every time we send out one of our search and rescue teams, we are putting our emergency responders, our friends and our neighbors in harm's way. So please be diligent in what you're looking at, and if it's time to evacuate, please evacuate. The Mississippi National Guard and the Mississippi Highway Patrol stands on standby and ready to be deployed if and when necessary for any immediate response. With respect to shelters, there are currently 2 shelters that are open, one in Oktibbeha County and one at the Jackson Police Training Center. Overnight, we had a population of 16 at the Hinds County shelter. There are literally over 100 spaces available. So at this point, with the shelters open, we have adequate space. We also have contingency plans in place in the event that that is necessary. We want to thank the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, and others who have stepped up as they always do in these times of challenges. And we also want to thank all of our first responders that are working diligently day and night to ensure that our fellow Mississippians are protected. As we move forward, please stay informed, follow the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency on social media, and tune into your local news. Protect yourself and protect your family. Have a plan in place, and please evacuate if and when you are asked to do so. Again, I can't thank the hard-working men and women of MEMA, those behind me and other state agencies, our first responders, enough. One of the things that we in Mississippi know better than most is how to deal with natural disasters. It's because of the experience that we've had dating back for many, many years, and obviously because of the occurrences during Hurricane Katrina, etc. We have experienced men and women who care enough to be willing and able to go and help rescue our fellow Mississippians. But again, we expect the river to continue to rise over the next 24 hours or so, so we are not out of the woods yet. We are seeing some positive news and some positive results from the last 24 hours, but there is more water coming into the river and into downtown Jackson. So again, with that, I will again say thank you, and I'm going to turn the program over to the director of MEMA, Mr. Michel.
Thank you, Governor. Just want to take this opportunity to thank Governor Reeves and his staff have been engaged in this operation from the very beginning, so appreciate the guidance and support to help us get through this. I'd also like to point out the hard work that's been done with the folks at the Pearl River Valley District, the Corps, and all those that are managing this water. You know, it's important, I think, to point out that the Ross Barnett Reservoir was not built as a flood management tool, but the men and women that manage that water have done so very effectively. That pool, you hear us talk about that, the reservoir pool. It's extremely and vitally important that pool be maintained and managed to build capacity for not only what we've had. If had it not been done so in the manner that it had, the flooding would have been much worse than it is right now. So we luckily are going to have the capacity to take on the anticipated rain that we'll be looking at next week. So to reiterate the comments that Governor Reeves has made, we do have more rain coming. We do believe that it will be able to manage that in a positive manner. Talk about the evacuations. We didn't have many responses last night to search and rescue missions. That is indicative that people are doing what they need to do. We want to continue to reiterate to folks, take advantage of this time during the daylight hours. The water did not rise to the level that we thought that it was going to last night. That's just based on water, and you can't always predict what it's going to do, but we've equalized, they have equalized the reservoir, so they will hopefully be able to back off on the outflow of that later today. However, the water is going to continue to come up. Just want to reiterate, if you're in an affected area, you do need to make preparations now during the daylight hours and evacuate. I want to thank again all of those who have been working and are standing by, and as the governor said before, if you get in a dangerous situation, we do have the resources to deploy. So once again, thanks to all of those in the city of Jackson, Hinds County, Rankin County, and Madison County for taking heed to the warnings and doing what you need to do. It's kept us from having to put first responders and emergency responders in harm's way. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to Governor Reeves.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Michelle, again for your efforts and for your team's efforts over many, many days and weeks and months, and certainly the last couple of days dealing with this particular situation. At this time, I'm going to recognize our congressman here from the 3rd Congressional District of Mississippi. In any event such as this, both in terms of short-term response but also in terms of long-term recovery, our federal partners are critical. And having good, strong relationships, certainly with our congressional delegation, but also the Trump administration is going to be vital to recovery in terms of resources that are available to us from the federal government. So at this time, I'm going to call on Congressman Guest.
Thank you. To the victims of our flooding, I want you to know that there's a coordinated response with not only local, federal, and state government. We are going to do everything that we can to mitigate any potential damage caused by the flooding. And then, as the governor said, we're going to work to try to make sure that the federal government plays as big a role as possible in the rebuilding and making sure that people are returned to the same position they were before the flooding. I will tell you that as the governor also, and as you've heard a few moments ago, the river will continue to rise. So we encourage everyone to continue to be vigilant. Don't believe that just because you've not received water yet that you are out of the woodworks at this point. We have first responders who are pre-deployed, who are ready to respond as necessary. And we just ask that you would continue to keep our first responders in your prayers, that you would continue to keep those individuals who are going to have suffered property loss because of this. We want to make sure that we are praying for them, that we are offering all the support that we can as a community, and let you know that we are offering all the support that we can as a united government, state, local, and federal, to make sure that we are prepared for anything that may happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman, for your support, and I know that both Congressman Guest and Governor Hosemann have been out and about over the last 36 hours, meeting with local law enforcement, meeting with our constituents, and I sincerely appreciate their efforts as it relates to that. And so at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann.
I thought you forgot my name there since you left that office. Mine's more on a more personal note. I appreciate the governor's hard work today and the staff. On Canton Sedgwick and River Road and those areas, that water is flowing and it is dangerous. So you can't just wade out into it. And ones that we've seen here in the last 24 hours. And with it going up a foot, it's going to even be more dangerous. And I would encourage particularly those in that area of Jackson to be most careful about going back into that water, in addition to it being possibly polluted. So we need to be very careful now. We're going to start going into some of the homes there. There's some already in, but with another foot, we'll get more homes in Jackson that'll have water in them. So I'd encourage all of y'all to be very careful about going out to help somebody and walking down that street when that water is flowing as fast as it can. And you can find yourself swept over in a ditch or anything else. So everybody be very, very careful. And thank you, Governor Reeves.
Thank you, Governor Hosemann. I can assure you that I may have forgotten what day it is today, but I have not forgotten your name or anyone else who controls the money in the legislative process. So, again, thank you all for being here. With that, I will open the floor to any questions that you may have, and we may shift around and make sure we get the right person to give you the right answers.
Greg, I understand the reservoir has just now cut back on the discharge slightly, and the forecast has been down, reduced by half a foot. What impact will that have on homes at a half a foot? How many fewer homes might be affected, do you think?
Well, I want to be careful with even messaging about the forecast coming down off of 38. But to go back to your question, yes, they were able to back down. I was supposed to at about 10 o'clock today, back the volume out down from 78,000 to 75,000 volume. So you've got a little bit less volume flow coming out of the reservoir. The problem is you still got the water that's been out there, that's been coming out, that's in the backwater, that's kind of flowed out of the banks that will be coming back in. So the water levels are still going to rise. We hope that it is going to be less than 38 feet, but we're still planning for 38 feet. The number of homes that would affect, we actually are going to go out and drive today and take the 38-foot flood maps and compare that to where we're seeing the water now, and we'll have a better idea of that probably tomorrow sometime. Obviously, 6 foot of water will affect a number of homes in the positive direction. I just don't know how many that will actually be right now.
Greg, let me also point something out. When we stood here 24 hours ago, we were at 35.8. And there were areas, due in large part to construction since 1983, there were areas that were receiving water that we would have anticipated having not received water until they were at the 38-foot level. And so all of these projections are just that. They are projections because when you think about the amount of construction that's happened, particularly in the Jackson area, since 1983, what we find is there are certain areas where 36 feet feels like 38 feet, and maybe there are going to be some areas where 38 feet feels like 39 or 39 and a half. And so the good news is, as you point out, the equalization did occur in the reservoir earlier today, and they are able to reduce what they had originally anticipated dropping into the river because of that. But they're still anticipating somewhere between 37 and a half to 38 feet peak. The good news is that given the amount of rainfall that we currently believe is going to transpire in central Mississippi over the next 3 to 4 days, the worst of which it seems like it's going to be sometime midday Tuesday till late day Wednesday. Given the amount of rain that is currently being projected, we don't anticipate at this time going over 38 feet, although it may stay at that level for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days, and maybe even into early next weekend. So, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us, as of right now, what is the level of the river? I know we're expected to get to 38, but what's the latest measurement we have right now?
The 36.3 is the latest level that I received, and that was literally 25, 30 minutes ago. 36.3. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit more just kind of about the nature of, I know you said that there were 4 rescues, evacuations overnight. Can you talk a little bit more about the nature of those? Were they people who were unable to get out? Just kind of talk about who was rescued.
Well, what I would tell you is that oftentimes in situations like this, you have individuals that just simply didn't have the ability on their own to get out. Sometimes it's maybe an invalid. It may be someone whose family who may need their family, but they live a long way away. And then sometimes you find yourself in a situation in which able-bodied Mississippians should have made a good decision and wise decision and get out, and they just didn't expect for the water to rise as quickly. Quite frankly, that is the reason that we have these press briefings, is not only to keep you all informed and alerted and to be fully transparent on the resources that we're spending, but also to get the word out to those individuals. What I will tell you is, with 4 rescues during the day yesterday and none overnight, that is, both of those are much better numbers than we originally anticipated. What that tells us is that, number one, the water didn't rise quite as quickly as we expected to in the nighttime hours overnight. It also tells us that people are paying attention. And those who are in low-lying areas have made the decision to evacuate. We still have assets positioned such that should they be needed, we will send emergency responders to help people, but that's where we find ourselves right this moment.
Is this the fastest you've ever seen it as far as with the amount of rain to this height, especially with the reservoir and downstream? Yeah,
well, what I would tell you is, historically speaking, the flood of 1979 was at about 43 feet. The flood of 1983 was closer to 40 feet. And so, assuming we get to 37.5 to 38 feet, this will be the third highest the Pearl River has ever been in Mississippi. And so, it is a historic event. It is one that we are continuing to monitor very closely. And as you can tell, it's an event that we're taking very, very, very seriously, ensuring that we are protecting our fellow Mississippians and also protecting our natural resources around the state.
And also, we've been looking at the railroad tracks right there on South State Street going back. Looks like they're going to be covered. Is that possibly with the Department of Transportation?
Yeah, I will tell you, I was down in South downtown yesterday and actually saw the train running, which surprised me. This was mid to late yesterday afternoon, but my understanding is that they were anticipating that the water would get over those tracks at some point. I don't know if we have do you know if that's happened or not? Or?
It's happened in several locations. Now,
Okay.
whether the trains are still going to be allowed to run, that's going to be their call.
Right. Thank you, Willie. Yes, ma'am.
Another question, to make sure, have there been any injuries reported as part of?
I don't think.
We don't have any injuries reported thus far, and again, that's a good thing. People are doing what they need to do, but no injuries have been reported thus far from anyone.
Now that it's seeping into people's homes, how long will it take for the water levels to start to recede again?
It's a great question and one that I cannot give you a definitive answer, but we do anticipate that if this ultimately peaks at the 37.5 to 38 range, that it will do so sometime tomorrow, and we would anticipate that it will probably take at least 3 to 4 days before we start seeing significant declines. And the reason for that is because we're anticipating, if it didn't rain, that may not be the case, but we're anticipating several inches of rain sometime between Tuesday midday and Wednesday evening. And so that's going to potentially slow things. But I'll also tell you, as Governor Hosemann mentioned earlier, it is not wise to play in this rising water. It is not wise to get in a vehicle and try to drive through it. If you see water in a roadway or rising in your house, turn around, don't drown. And so what we expect is that once it starts receding, it could recede very, very quickly, because right now the river levels downriver in Lawrence County and Marion County, et cetera, are actually holding relatively steady right now. We're not seeing significant upticks at those areas, and so once it starts receding, it could recede relatively quickly. That also potentially presents itself to be somewhat dangerous as the water flow moves very quickly, and we don't want anyone to hurt themselves as potentially lulling ourselves into a false sense of security simply because the water is going down. But the answer to your question is mid to late week.
And then one more. Does the state have any plan to deal with the thousands of people who are displaced from their homes?
Well, we have shelters that are open, that are operational, that are functional. We have one in Oktibbeha County. We have one that is currently open at the Jackson Police Academy. The capacity for that particular shelter is in excess of 100. We had 17 people stay there overnight. We also have contingency plans in place that should both of those shelters get full, we will open additional shelters. And so we have planned for that. But at this point, we don't anticipate needing to do so, but we're planning to. What often happens in situations like this is when people evacuate, they go stay with their mom, or they go stay with loved ones, or they go stay with friends, or some even go stay in hotels and motels. But at this point, we do not anticipate needing to open additional shelters, but if it becomes necessary, we are prepared to do so. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an approximate number of people that will be affected by this? I know we've said in the thousands, but...
Well, we initially projected approximately 2,500 structures in Hinds, Rankin, and Madison County. Of those, probably approximately 1,000 homes would be affected. And so if you assume 2 people per home, that's a couple thousand. But again, what you're going to see is of those, a large percentage of them are going to go to friends' houses, to families' homes, etc. But it could be as many as 2,000 or 3,000.
And those 1,000 homes, are those in the mandatory evacuation zone? Or how many are?
Well, those are what we anticipate to get affected by rising water. And so those are in Hinds, Rankin, and Madison. The majority of them are in Hinds County, but not all of them are in Hinds County.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.